Let's pretend that for some reason I needed to start my makeup collection over from scratch, only buying one thing per category. What would I buy? Some of the considerations I made for this were obviously price point. If I'm repurchasing an entire collection, we're gonna get as much from the drugstore as we can. And if it's going to be a high-end splurge, like it's gonna be a great product, totally worth the increased price point. But also, what products are gonna give me the most value even outside of price point? Which products can I use as many ways as possible? Which products will be reliable enough for daily wear? And I think I have compiled the perfect list. I filmed this video before, but I wanted to do an updated version for 2024 because pretty much everything that I mentioned last year is new now. So let's jump in. I will leave the other version of this I've done down below. I've done other similar videos over the years, but the foundation and concealer I'm gonna try to talk about very quickly because if you have watched any content on my channel in the last 2 months, you have heard me talking about these two products pretty much 24/7. So these were predictable, but everything else will hopefully be a bit of a surprise. Maybe, we'll see. But the foundation I would choose would be the Tarte Shape Tape Cloud Coverage. The foundation I mentioned last year was Fenty Eavesdrop, which is actually what I have on my face today. And I debated, do I go with Eavesdrop? And while I love Fenty Eavesdrop, it is one of my tip-top foundations, this outperforms it for me. I got a comment recently asking which one I prefer if I had to choose one or the other. I love both, but I think did I even say the name? The Tarte Shape Tape Cloud Coverage. This is my second bottle. I have used up an entire one of these. This one is brand new. This is a very adaptable formula. It is great if you have dry skin, but I could also see it being really well liked on an oily skin type because it's not too overly dewy. Oh my gosh, here I go. I was like, I'm not gonna talk about it too much. I'm just so in love with this foundation and I feel like nobody talks about this. And it's just one of the best. It has the most natural skin-like finish. It wears incredibly well. It sits well over my dry patches, which is the only thing for my Fenty Eavesdrop. That one, I would say it's more of a matte skin tint. So on a more dry skin type like my own, I find my skin has to be really well prepped for it to wear as well as I want. Don't get me wrong, it's better than most matte sitting products, but this one sits even better over my dry patches, especially right now when we're in winter and I'm as flaky as can be. This has been my go-to. I genuinely, you guys, I will force myself when I'm doing my makeup. I'm like, please, Kelly, use something other than the cloud coverage. Okay, so much for talking about it quickly. Maybe I can talk about this faster. Can I? Probably not. But the concealer, the Natasha Denona Hy-Glam Concealer. I have the shade N4. I'm wearing it today. It is so high pigment, so smoothing, does not crease. Well, minimally creases. Nothing's not gonna crease. When people say concealer doesn't crease, I don't know about that. I guess, it's gonna depend on your face and the way that your under eyes move as you make different expressions, but any movement here, the product is going to move with it. But I will say this creases so minimally, the least of anything I've ever found. Best wear time, best finish, best concealer. Okay, moving along. For powder, this was the hardest category because I'm obsessed with powder. My first thought was my favorite powder is the Jones Road Pink powder, okay? This is a loose powder. They call it the tinted face powder, and I have mine in the shade pink. I'm obsessed with this. I think it is so brightening. I think the pink tone just really blurs together the blush and the under eye. It looks flawless. It is the most, if you want your face to look filtered, this product. And it's so interesting too because I also have the translucent shade, and I don't think the translucent is as good as the pink. It is specifically this shade that I cannot live without. So that was my first thought. I was like, okay, this should be the powder. But then I'm like, okay, girl, if you're only gonna choose one powder, is it really gonna be pink? Or would it make more sense to choose something a little more versatile? I also briefly considered the new peach powder from Huda Beauty. This is their newest shade. It's called Peach Pie. This powder, I didn't think I would like this because it's really not designed for my skin tone. They say this is for a medium to tan skin tone, but I was like, let me try it out. I love a pink under eye, so maybe I would like this peach one, and if it doesn't work, I could mix it. No, surprisingly, I don't find this to be too dark for my under eyes. That being said, it doesn't give me the brightening effect that you would get on a more medium skin tone, that's gonna work to really brighten the under eye. For me, it's just like a nice pretty under eye powder, and I've been obsessed with it. But I ran into the same issue I did with the pink, where I'm like, okay girl, if you're only gonna choose one powder, maybe don't get a tinted powder. So then I'm like, maybe my Sigma. This is probably my favorite translucent powder. This is called the Soft Focus Setting Powder. I have the shade Vanilla Bean. This is also pretty pricey. I think it's worth the price, but again, if I'm starting a collection from scratch, we need to introduce drugstore products here where we can. So, long story long, I went with the e.l.f. powder, okay? This is the Halo Glow Setting Powder. I have mine in the shade light pink, but that name is deceiving. It is not a pink powder. It just has a pink undertone to it. And even though I don't have a pink undertone, I actually still like, it's weird, but I kind of like when my setting powder, especially for my under eye, is cool toned and leans pink, because it just can kind of like blur in with the blush well. So I don't mind that it's like slightly pink leaning, but the pink tint is very minimal, almost non-existent. But this powder is so blurring, it is so finely milled, it is so smooth, a wonderful option from the drugstore. I love all four that I mentioned, but this one fit best into the budget if we're considering that. But I threw the budget out the window for bronzer because the bronzer choice was a no-brainer. Say it with me, the Fenty bronzer. I have the shade Inda Sun. This is the Sun Stalk'r bronzer. If you have fair skin, this is the best bronzer I have ever found for very fair skin. It doesn't pull orange, it doesn't pull like too warm, but it's also not too cool tone. It's the perfect shade, it blends like butter. Look at the giant pan I have on it. Like, I've hit multiple pan. I've got pan in 3 spots. I'm obsessed with this, but I did choose an alternative here, okay? So there were like, imagine there's like alternate universes. That was choice number 1. And with this, I am pairing it with a blush. Stay tuned. But in the alternate universe, another option I could have gone with, but I was too indecisive to choose, so I wanted to mention both, okay? The BareMinerals bronzer in the shade, specifically in the shade Kiss of Copper, okay? In the alternate universe, I would choose just this, okay? That's the budget option here. I'm just choosing this for blush and bronzer. This shade in particular, I think, works well as an all over the face dusting. I also have the shade Kiss of Pink from BareMinerals in the bronzer line, and that one does not work well for both. That one is simply a blush, but this has a little bit more of that golden copper undertone to it that works well around the entire face to kind of serve the purpose of blush and bronzer, okay? So this is an alternative universe. This is the only thing I pick. No Fenty bronzer, no blush, just this. But going back to the scenario where I choose the Fenty bronzer, this is the blush. I know you thought I was gonna choose Persona Georgia. I thought that too. But this has been my obsession for a couple of months now. I'm wearing it today. I'm wearing this most days. This is from Tarte, and it is their Amazonian Clay blush. Do you remember when this was the blush, like years ago? Everybody loved the Amazonian Clay blushes. They have a ton of shades. I feel like back when powder blushes were more popular, now I feel like it's very heavily cream and liquid blush focused, but back when powder blushes were all the rage, this was the formula. And this shade is called Exposed. And right now I'm really into a nude, beige, boring, we're putting in air quotes, boring blush. That's kind of been my favorite lately. I just think there's something so beautiful about the way it blends into the bronzer. It just looks subtle. Don't get me wrong, I still love a bright, punchy blush, whether that's a bold red, a hot pink. I still love those shades, but if I'm only choosing one and I want some versatility, I want it to go with any look, I want to be able to wear it daily, Exposed is such a simple choice because it's this perfect nude that's gonna match everything. Okay, so those are the two. I would either choose these two at the same time or just this one. I could not pick, so I figured I would throw in both. I hope it's helpful because I do think, like, if you were traveling and you wanted to bring as few products as possible, this shade, if you're around my skin tone or maybe like a light medium skin tone, the shade Kiss of Copper could really work for like blush and bronzer at the same time. Now you might have noticed I skipped primer and I'm about to skip highlighter, and that is actually intentional because if I was building a bare bones collection, you know, I'm trying to buy as few products as possible, spend as little as possible, those are the categories that are absolute easiest for me to omit. I don't need either one. Don't get me wrong. I love a full glam day. I love doing all the steps. I think there can be a lot of value in a primer and a highlight. But for me personally, if I had to get rid of something, those are the easiest ones. Like no thought, like highlighter, forget it. Primer, forget it. More often than not, I'm skipping those steps anyways, so I did not include them. But brows posed a bit of a challenge for me because I don't have eyebrows, okay? I do, but they are sparse and blonde. And actually, they're blonder right now than normal because I made a grave mistake yesterday. I was touching up my front pieces and just had some bleach on them. And I'm in my bathroom, and I know hairdressers don't come for me, but I don't put them in foil or anything. I just have them free hanging. And I noticed it kind of like fell onto my cheek, and I immediately, as I'm like doing the other section, I'm thinking, oh, I better move that so I don't get the bleach on my skin. But I wasn't able to move it as quickly as I needed to. And when I get to it, I lift it up. I bleached half my eyebrow off. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, where did my eyebrow go? So even today, don't look at this eyebrow. I was like doing surgery to try to put this eyebrow back together, try to convince you that these hairs are not translucent white currently, even though they are. So give me a month, they'll be back. Anyways, that being said, this product alone might not cut it if you accidentally bleach your eyebrows like I do. But I wanted to keep it minimal, but I also wanted to keep it drugstore, you know? So this has been my go-to brow pencil for a while now. This is from Ulta Beauty, their in-house collection. It's called the Ultra Slim Brow Pencil, and mine is in the shade Soft Brown. I think it works well. It's slightly warmer than I would like, but I do think the tone is nice. If you have somewhat darker blonde hair around the color of my hair, I think this is a nice accompanying brow pencil. And it's just waxy enough. It's just pigmented enough. I like that midpoint when it comes to my brow pencils. But what I appreciate the most about this, and what is very important to me in a brow pencil, is the size of the tip. I like something super micro, super teeny tiny, so that you can create hair-like strokes. And if I'm only choosing one product, I want something like this that's gonna give me a lot of precision, so I don't then need to also bring in like a pomade or a brow marker. Don't get me wrong, I would miss a brow gel, but like, if push came to shove, I could use some hairspray on a spoolie. I've done that. I could use some soap or some gel on a spoolie. Any of the above would give a similar effect. I feel like we could skip the brow gel, even though I would miss it. Okay, the eyes. Actually, pretty much everything else from here on out, with the exception of one, we're talking new products that are newer or newish, at least to me, that were an instant choice. I was like, oh, I would need that back. Starting with eyes. Okay. The palette I mentioned last year was Natasha Denona Mini Biba. I considered that today. I'm like, do I do Mini Biba again? I love Mini Biba. But the newest Natasha Denona Mini to me, the Mini Dream, I wanted to call this Mini Glam because honestly it looks kind of similar to Mini Glam. But Mini Dream is what I have on my eyes today. Mini Dream is what I have put on my eyes in every single recent video except for the nostalgia video, which I can leave linked down below. But everything else, you'll see me using this. Every look I've done off camera, I have used this. And first of all, these are a better price point than purchasing a full-size high-end palette. It's not a great price. It's $27 for 5 shades, which is still kind of pricey, but it's definitely better than buying like a full-size high-end palette at Sephora. And I feel like you still get some versatility here. I could do a fully matte look. I could create like an eyeliner with the dark brown. That way I don't need to also buy an eyeliner. We've got 2 different shimmers. Today I've got this on the lid, this on the inner corner. I feel like even the 5 shades in here still give me a good amount of range. We could go glam. We could do a little bit more subtle. This might be my new favorite of the Natasha Denona 5 pans. I think. Is it better than Biba? I don't know. They're a little bit different. Biba pulls a lot more peachy warm, whereas this has somewhat of that like mauve-y purple undertone. They're both neutral palettes, but I feel like they give slightly different looks on the eyes. So this would be my choice. And then the mascara. When I tell you, I'm obsessed with this mascara. I didn't even think I liked this on the first impression. Do you remember I was like, oh, I'm not gonna enjoy this. It's a little bit clumpy. No. This e.l.f., you have outdone yourself. The Lash Extender. Do you remember years ago, e.l.f. was really bad at mascaras. I had tried e.l.f. mascaras years back. It was like every single one of them was bad. e.l.f. could not make a good mascara to save their lives, but something has shifted, and you know how much I loved the Lash and Roll, but this has already replaced it for me. I like this more than Lash and Roll. It gives me a little bit better hold, but it still gives me the definition. It gives me slightly more volume. Lash and Roll is a bit more subtle and lengthening, whereas this gives a little bit more volume while still being natural. If you like bold, super voluminous lashes, this might not be for you, but for a separated, beautiful, natural, but still defined everyday lash, this is so good. And it's a tubing mascara, and it's a good shade of brown. The shade that I have is called Brown. Why did I have to look at that? I thought it was one of those where it has like a unique name, like chocolate or something, but no, it's just called Brown. It's a nice shade of brown. I love this mascara. This was an easy choice. Out of all these, there are certain categories where I was like, do I do this? Do I do that? Some of them took me a little longer to decide on, not this. Instantly, as I was making my list, I was like, oh, Lash Extender. I have only owned this for a month, but I can tell you right now, I like this more than any of my other mascaras. I have gotten compliments from people like, oh, your lashes look so nice today. It is the e.l.f. Lash Extender. I'm realizing now just how much e.l.f. is in this video, because the next category of lips, I have more e.l.f. to talk about. So if you know me, you know I'm obsessed with lip liner. For me, lip liner is more important than any other lip product. The lip liner is more important than the lipstick, the lip gloss, the anything for me, because I feel like it can carry the look. It can change the shade of the lip product. You can really define the lips. I love a lip liner. And so to choose the most budget-friendly option possible, because we're building a full makeup collection from scratch, I wanted to include the new $2 lip liners from e.l.f. These are phenomenal. And the shade I have on right now, I have it all over my entire lips, is the one I would choose. This is called Truth or Bare. These are very creamy. These wear well. These do not feel dry. I have this over my entire lips, not just on the lip line. I colored in my lips with this, and I still think it feels almost like I just have on a regular lipstick. It does not feel dried out the way some lip liners can. Great longevity, great everything. Honestly, because these are only $2, we could even buy like 2 or 3 and add it to the collection, and it wouldn't even make a big difference. 2 or 3 of these would cost you just as much as any other one lip liner at the drugstore. So this was an easy choice. And then for the lip, I know you're thinking, oh, she's gonna choose like a traditional lipstick, whether that's a bullet lipstick, or maybe you're thinking, oh, she's gonna choose a gloss. No. I wanted something hydrating, but with a bit of pigment that would pair well with this. So I chose one of the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balms, because this could serve the purpose of what is essentially a lip gloss, but also a hydrating product for my lips. But I specifically chose the shade Pink Sugar because this has a little bit of a tint. I'm actually not wearing this right now, so let me just put this on right now. I love, honestly, any of them I love. I have 3 of these, but this shade I feel like tends to pair really well with a lip liner because it has the most subtle pink tint to it. I just think this combo together would be gorgeous for every day, or you could wear them individually, just one or just the other. I think I would be all set. Don't get me wrong, I would miss the variety, but if I had to just choose a lip combo, it would have to be these. I would probably skip eyeliner just because I can use the dark brown in here. I would skip a setting spray. I don't feel like that's as necessary. And so this would be the full collection. It is very mini. It would be perfect for traveling anytime you're on the go. But I hope this video was helpful or entertaining or both. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.